in India's public school system. And in spite of our amazing scale, and in spite of our low cost, which is 15 cents per meal, we have been able to solve 1.5% of the problem. So that is why we are here to talk more about AI and tech innovations. Interestingly enough, Akshaya Patra served its first billionth meal in 2012, and 4 years later, we served our 4 years later, in 2016, we served our second billionth meal, and this is what we're going to discuss here in this room today. We aspire to serve 5 billionth meal very soon. Tech innovation and AI should help us. How and when, we're going to figure out the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Gitika. So with that, we will jump into a fireside chat. And I'll provide a little bit of context, and then we'll hear from, I'll introduce our speakers, and we'll hear from them. So some of you may know already about the Sustainable Development Goals. But in case some of you don't, just for context, in 2015, all world leaders came together, and what was a miracle, all of them, along with the UN, ratified what are being called the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 extremely ambitious goals. These are goals such as eliminate poverty, eliminate hunger across the world, quality education for all, quality healthcare access, energy for all, sustainable development, tackling climate change, saving life on land, on water. Essentially, these goals unify human rights and climate change, tackle inequality and dignity for all, and climate change, and recognizing these things are related. They're not isolated. As we heard with Akshaya Patra, all these goals are related. To achieve them, solving one in an isolated manner is not enough. And the goals now provide a universal framework. For the first time, we have a framework that all world leaders have agreed to for social change, which is comprehensive. And there's a recognition that just the UN, government can't do this alone. They will need civil society, philanthropy, private sector, all of us to come together to achieve these goals. And so this is an interesting moment in time. Already there are several organizations that have started. I myself am an advisor to the Sustainable Development Goal Philanthropy Platform, which is looking at the role that philanthropy plays in achieving the SDGs. And today we're going to look at what I believe is going to be one of the key accelerants to achieve all the Sustainable Development Goals. What could be the role of technology, innovation, artificial intelligence? Of course, many people have been saying that technology could be a problem if we don't think carefully. And I'm in the camp that agrees. I think it's a huge opportunity, but we have to be very intentional on how we use technology and be careful that it doesn't increase the digital divide and shrinks it. But I am a huge optimist when we have people like Andrew, Desh, and many other brilliant people who care about the world. We can do amazing things with technology to accelerate all the goals. So today's theme is, what could be the role of tech innovation, AI, to advance the Sustainable Development Goals? And how can we do this via collective action? All of you in this room, all of us as a global community. And with that, I'll start introducing our speakers and we'll start hearing from them. Deshpande is a thought leader, a global thought leader. He is a very successful entrepreneur and a venture capitalist, philanthropist. He's the founder of the Deshpande Center for Technology Innovation, MIT. He's in the board of MIT. We have MIT and Stanford minds here today. Great to have them together. He is also the founder of the Deshpande Foundation, and President Obama appointed him to be the co-chairman of the National Advisory Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So he has that perspective as well from the policy side. And Desh is also on the board of Akshaya Patra, the awesome organization that's Coke and Meaning. And he is doing he and his wife Jayashree are doing amazing work in Hubli in India and here in the US, working with vulnerable communities and looking at the sandbox model he'll be telling us about, to look at how can communities solve their own problems and how to empower them. And he walks the talk, which is what I love about this. When last 2 days, a lot of time with him. There are a lot of people think of a lot of things, but he actually does this. And he does it in Hubli, not in Delhi, not in Bombay. And so we'll be hearing from him. And also he's doing amazing things with universities. So they should also be telling us about what roles universities could play, not just MIT, many other universities, his other alma mater, IIT Madras as well. And then our other speaker, I'll introduce both speakers and then we'll start the chat. Professor Andrew Ng, a dear friend, I'm a huge fan of, known him for years. Andrew is, of course, the founder of Coursera, which has democratized access to education for all. And it's just been amazing to see. We have, I think, my friend Asha Jadeja Motwani. Asha, were you here? You're there, right? So Asha does this. I'm going to give an example of how Andrew's transformed the world. Akshaya does this amazing fellowship, Rajiv Circle Fellowship, where she brings young people from India, not from necessarily top schools, from some other school, but they're very, very enterprising young people. And it's when they came here, some of them wanted to first meet Andrew Ng because they all learned how to code, not in school, but through Coursera. And they're doing amazing stuff. And Akshaya would take them to meet Sergey Brin and all the top people, but first they wanted to meet Andrew Ng because he transformed their lives. So thank you, Andrew, for doing that. Andrews also was involved in the Google Brain project in the early days. He's been a professor here, leading the AI work here, AI Center at Stanford. He was a vice president at Baidu until very recently and set up the AI labs here in Silicon Valley, which some brilliant people joined. And he is now doing some other very interesting things. He's one of the top thought leaders in AI, a thought leader who cares very, very deeply about what could be the role of AI in helping society and has thought quite a bit through it. So we're very thrilled to have both of you here. Welcome, Andrew, Desh. Let's give them another round. We're going to start off, I'll ask a couple of questions from the speakers. We'll hear their thoughts, and then we'll open up to questions from all of you. We'll have plenty of time for audience questions. So, Desh, starting with you, question to you is, walk us through a little bit of your experiences. How have you seen technology transforming and helping society? And what are some of your own personal experiences? What have you seen? Also tell us a bit about what role do you see universities playing in this? And also tell us what could people like us in the room, people like Andrew, Silicon Valley community, what role could people like us play? What role do the people in Hubli or in rural Africa, India play? What do other parts of the world play? How do you see that happening? I know you have some amazing frameworks. We'd love to hear that as well.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I think it's, I do see some fellow MIT guys here, Ramesh Raskar, Mart Goldenberg in the back, my co-board member at MIT, and he's also on the steering committee of Deshpande Center at MIT. So, nice to see you all. Maybe one way to frame this issue is that technology is progressing faster and faster, and we're going to hear a lot of exciting things from Andrew about all the good things that are happening. But the question is, how does that impact the world? And maybe, I think a good way to frame it is we can divide the world into...
Yeah, just press, and take this. Press it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one way to frame this is that technology is progressing, and how do we use that progress in technology to help two parts of the world? There is people who have disposable income and people who don't have disposable income. People who have disposable income, if they have a problem, they're looking for a solution, right? They're Googling for the solution. And in the last 50 years, we've developed an amazing ecosystem to actually cater to that need. That is, if you come up with an idea that the world has not seen before, and you direct it to some burning problem that these people have, who have disposable income, it'll find a route to the market. And we have developed angel investing and access to capital and open markets and way to distribution channels, Amazon, Walmart, all kinds of stuff. So I think that part seems to be happening, and it's going to continue to accelerate, which does build the economic growth, the GDP, and everything else. But the people who don't have disposable income are just barely trying to get through the day. So it's not like those people are Googling and saying, well, how do I get clean water? How do I get this? How do I get better health? And so on. So if you want to help those people, you first need to build capacity there and also co-create the solution that are relevant to those people. And I was just mentioning to somebody that, for example, innovating for that section of the population is very different than innovating for the people with disposable income. Geetika just said that this meal, local produced, local cuisine, is 15 cents a meal, right? MIT and Stanford are powerhouses of innovation. If I came to any of these institutions and said, please solve the problem in India for midday meal, they'll probably come up with a solution for $5 a meal, and they will not realize it's $4.85 too expensive, right? So innovation has to be contextual, and it has to be relevant to the people who need it. And so I think we need to build capacity within this community. So for the last 10 years, we've been working on this quite a bit. And later on, maybe we can talk a little bit more about it in terms of how do you build that capacity among the people who need it. But once you build capacity, and let's say now this organization is doing 1.6 million meals a day, but we need to get to 100 million. So to go from 1.6 to 100 million, you need a lot of non-linear solutions. And those organizations now are fully capable of using a lot of the advances in technology and in financial engineering and everything else. So I think it's just a two-step process. So the people here who are interested in helping those people who don't have disposable income, don't start with the wrong question, because I find that most of the people start with the wrong question of saying, and they're compassionate with very genuine. I mean, you just can't question their compassion. But they always start by saying, what is it that I can give that I have? And most of the people have brains. So they say, I can give a solution. But that's the wrong way to lead, because it's very presumptuous of us to assume that we know the solution for the people who live on $2 a day, because their risk tolerance, what they need is very different. And also, even by chance, if we came up with the best solution, there's no capacity in those communities to absorb the solution, so it doesn't go anywhere. So instead of looking for a silver bullet to solve those problems, we first have to find ways to build capacity. And once you build capacity, then I think those people become capable of solving problems. As they solve bigger and bigger problems, they see roadblocks. And then we can use the technology and brains and everything else to overcome those roadblocks. So it's just a two-step process that we shouldn't forget.
Thank you, Desh. There's another question for Andrew. Andrew, tell us a little bit, how have you seen AI deep learning play a role in bringing positive change to society? And share some of your life journey experiences as well as what you've seen. And also share some advice for, we have many entrepreneurs in the room. What could AI bring to entrepreneurs? What kind of capabilities, opportunities going forward?
I think we live in a very exciting time because technology is improving so much, so rapidly. We see maybe especially AI technology, but other types of technology. So I think we live in an age where each of you is more powerful than a lot of people in almost any early phase of history in terms of your ability to go and change a lot of people's lives, millions of people's lives. And I think the world now actually supports that one person, maybe one of you, with the right ideas and right execution can go and change millions of people's lives in the next several years. Just to answer the last part of Radhika's question in a little bit greater depth, one of the major technology revolutions I'm super excited about is the rise of artificial intelligence. And today, AI can do so many things that just we could not do just a couple of years ago, right? And then maybe, when I was leading the Baidu's AI team, people actually used to ask me, what can AI do? Is this mysterious thing? What is AI? What is AI? So there's this rule of thumb that I gave my teams at Baidu, which is almost anything that a typical human can do with less than a second of mental thought, we could probably now, or in the near future, automate using AI. So for example, input a picture and tell me if there's a cat in this or not. You could do that in less than a second, and we do a pretty good job with that using AI. Or it's a satellite imagery, right? And estimate some local conditions based on satellite imagery. If a person could do that with a quick look at a photo, we could probably do that using AI as well. certain medical diagnosis tasks, a lot of radiology tasks, where there's some tasks